Today, I want to welcome Claire Ansell. She is the founder and CEO of Business Powerhouse. That's a global consulting and coaching firm helping high performing entrepreneurs and service based business owners accelerate revenue, systematize growth, and scale with confidence. Claire has a history in doing turnarounds for larger companies. And at one point, just in life, she said, this isn't doing it for me. And so she kind of hit a reset button and is now focused on small companies and helping them succeed. So, Claire, welcome.
Hey, how are you?
Very, very well. So, those that are listening probably, so you're in Charleston, South Carolina, and the first thing that struck me was you have a non-Charleston like accent.
And just south of the border.
Yes. Have you been to that south of the border
I
on
don't,
I-95?
no, I don't think so. I've been to a lot of places, but I mean, geography is not my strong point. I'm not gonna lie to you.
There is on I-95, there is a, I don't know what to call it. Some would call it an obscenity. It's just this tacky, not quite an amusement park. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it, but as you drive up and down I-95, for hundreds of miles, you see these signs so many miles to south of the border, and it's right there on the North Carolina, South Carolina border, but on the South Carolina side. And they have the gaudiest, tackiest things you've ever seen. And it's one of those things that if you're going down I-95, you just have to stop and be
Take a look.
momentarily outraged at the plastic nature of everything.
That's too funny. I haven't seen it.
Yeah. So anyway, you obviously you're from London
Yes.
and you how did you arrive in the United States?
Well, I was running my consultancy business, my turnaround business, and so I was kind of working half and half between like America and the UK. And I was pregnant with my son, my second child at the time, and just the travel and the time difference was insane. And so decided that I could move the business to the States. And so when he was probably about 3 or 4 months old, I upped and we all moved to Texas in the United States. And carried on the business there. And so that was really the transition.
Yeah. Now, your family are they back in London?
Yeah, so my parents are divorced, but my mum is in England and my father is in England now too.
Okay. But he used to live in Monaco.
He did, that's correct. When I was growing up, that's where he lived, yeah.
That seems very exotic.
Yeah, when we were about 14 years old, one day he was a small business owner. He just decided to break it at dinner that we were all moving to the south of France. And so within about 6 weeks, my mum and myself at like 13 years old moved to the south of France. And so we didn't live in Monaco, but we lived in like Cannes or Le Cannet. And for a couple of years, that's where I lived. And then my mum and I came back to England and he moved and lived in Monaco for about 20 years.
Oh, wow. Wow. And I've been to that part of France once, and it's amazingly gorgeous.
Yeah.
In some ways, it reminds me a little bit of California, but I just remember going way up in the hills. I mean, the mountains rise right out of the Med.
Yeah, it's
And
amazing. If
yeah,
you haven't sat on like a French private beach and, been served a cocktail and then gone to one of the little cafes at the back of the beach, like hut and where it is and how beautiful it is whilst looking at the ocean, like you haven't lived. Like it is honestly one of the most like relaxing and beautiful things to do.
yeah. So the thing that really struck me was, I mean, so I would expect that most people that have a dad that lives in Monaco probably has like high educational expectations, high career expectations. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he definitely did. I mean, I remember when I was probably about 13 years old, he wanted me to come out of public school and go to this private school. No, I was 11 actually. And I wasn't good at passing exams. And so for about 8 weeks or whatever, he got me like these private lessons to pass the entrance exam to go to this private school. And so I failed terribly. I did not pass this exam, but he was so persuasive. He went in there and persuaded the headmistress or the principal to give me a place. And so that was kind of the start of this expectation. I mean, he truly did. I mean, he only ever spoke about business, at the table. He definitely had a true expectation of like what I should be, behave like a lady, how you were dressed, what you behaved like, where you showed up. It was definitely a massive expectation my whole life in, turning out to be somebody.
That's a heavy load to carry.
And I don't think I realized how much of a burden it was until I got to about 40 years old. I'd spent my whole life with this image in my head that I didn't have a great relationship with him. We actually have a very good relationship now, which is amazing. And that's been over the last 2 or 3 years. But before that, we didn't have a good relationship, like at all. And so, but I felt like I had to prove myself to him that it was just this piece, I think maybe father-daughter dynamic. And so I spent my whole life fighting in this belief that one day he would come out of his Monaco apartment, he'd be sat at a cafe, he'd order his coffee, and he'd get his like newspaper that he read every single day religiously. And there I would be on the front cover of the magazine or the newspaper for something truly amazing. Like that would be me in that moment. And he would know that I had achieved it. And that's what I was working towards. And then probably about 2 years before my 40th birthday, he called me and he'd had advanced glaucoma for about 6 months and he was completely blind.
Oh
And
my.
so, yeah, I mean, terrible for him, but for me, this vision that I had suddenly, it was never going to happen. Like I'd spent 20 years of my life waiting for this moment, trying to prove myself, and it was never going to happen.
Wow. Oh, it's heartbreaking. I was thinking of somewhat, there's a business, I think most people are familiar with this business. Have you ever heard of 1-800 Got Junk?
No.
Oh, oh wow. Okay, it's is the leading junk removal company
Okay.
in the United States and Canada. And the guy, Brian Skidmore, who started that, his dad was an attorney, had all these high expectations for him in terms of college and what have you. And he started college, he dropped out almost immediately. It just didn't work for him. And he was sitting in the McDonald's drive-through and he looked up and a couple cars ahead of him, he saw a pickup that said, "We'll haul junk." And he's like, "Well, I can do that." And he went, spent $1,600, bought a pickup. And I can just, yeah, you can imagine the disappointment in the dad. And he built this massive, it's nearly $1 billion business. But he learned, I don't think he knew at the time, but he was dyslexic and he just didn't do well in school.
Yeah, that was me.
You're dyslexic.
Majorly dyslexic, majorly dyslexic. They literally told me when I took my exams, I was 16 in England, you take your GCSEs, and I failed everything terribly. I mean, the science teachers told me like 2 weeks before the exam, he said, Clara, if you studied every single second between now and the exam, 24 hours a day, you still wouldn't pass. And I remember looking at him and being like, it's okay, my mum's not going to make me take it. And going home and begging my mum not to make me take it because I knew I would fail it. And yeah, the only thing I passed was business studies and I passed art.
Wow.
And they said to me then, you're never, they didn't realize I was dyslexic till I was like 14 years old. It was too late. And so by that point, they were just never going to be able to correct my test taking ability. That was really the problem. And they didn't know how in those days.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think I think a lot of small business owners, small and mid-sized business owners are people that just, don't fit into the traditional education system, don't fit into the traditional company and are extremely bright and talented, but when they try to go through the university system or they try to go the traditional corporate structure, it doesn't suit them.
I agree with you 100%. And we spend a lot of time helping business owners and entrepreneurs with that ourselves, like trying to educate them in a way that they can really understand it. And so our like mantra is like we try and meet people where they're at versus where we're at. Like that's a big piece to try and help educate them and pull them forward. I mean, like right now I'm working with a client that's on one of my group coaching programs, and she's building a business to help people with severe ADHD. And like fascinating the way in which she's going to build this business to help them understand like how to, really get jobs and work in society and like live some kind of balanced life. And so it's interesting the aspects that we'll kind of collaborate on to help do that. And so we truly believe that. But for me, like my dyslexia is my superpower. Like it truly is. Like my ability to actually see the world the way that I do in processes and systems and structures actually allowed me to be exceptional at what I do. And that's like, so you have to be able to take those weaknesses and say, are they really weaknesses or are they massive opportunities for me to be different?
Yeah. Well, I love that. I love that because, well, again, I just think so many, I think so many business owners at some point, I think they find the most freedom when they say, you know what, I don't need the approval of the world. I'm just going to be, who I am
Yeah.
and and serve the world in a way that makes sense to me.
I agree, but then I think unfortunately there's this reality kicks in that they don't know how. They don't know how to do that. And so then instead of the freedom that they think by not serving the world, they get chained almost by themselves because they feel like they don't live up to their own expectations. And it's this battle that is suddenly created. And so it's an interesting like dynamic to watch actually someone coming from a corporate world saying, I want to be free. And actually, lots of small business owners don't feel free at all. The complete opposite.
Yeah, I know for me, I mean, when I left corporate America, for me, the biggest wake up call for me was realizing the size of the support staff that
Need.
allowed, the people in the background that allowed me to perform in corporate America, all of a sudden I didn't have that. And I started realizing how critical they were and how essential they were.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I mean, you also don't necessarily know what your skills are. Like when we're in jobs or roles, we get to use the strengths that we have, and most companies have other people that are compensating for things that are not our strengths. But when you're a business owner and you're wearing all the hats, you have to do all those pieces, or you at least have to understand all those pieces. And that's really what I teach business owners or educate them in and help them is build well-rounded businesses, because most of the time they channel in and they focus on the things that work. And a lot of the money and the answers are actually in the things that aren't working in their business. And by fixing those, they don't actually have to do more, they have to do less. And so we have this very cool like framework or methodology in the way that we teach them. And by about day 4, they're like, oh, their minds are blown. And they're like, I get it. I actually see my business for the first time, the business that I want. Like it's right there for the taking. It's a very cool process.
It's over Christmas, I read 10x is easier than 2x.
Yeah.
And one of the messages that came to me was, Craig, you're doing a bunch of crap you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
Get that, quit doing that, and go fix your calendar. Quit letting people book you back to back to back.
Yeah.
And those were kind of my biggest takeaways. Is it along the lines of that?
Well, I mean, the average person, the average business owner wastes about 700 plus hours a year, which is about 90 days. So there's a massive gap on unproductive, unfocused time. But what we're really teaching them is how to build a tactical acceleration plan. So most people know they don't know. Most people don't even know where they actually are today, like where their point A is. Where am I financially? What's my revenue? What works? What doesn't work? They don't actually even know that. And so we help them understand what their point A is, and then what is the point B? What's the ultimate destination that you want to do with this business? Where do you want to go? Because that's like a magnet that like draws you towards a destination that changes the way that your brain makes decisions and the way that you're able to see your business and how you operate on a daily basis. And so then what we do is help them build the roadmap between point A to point B, like the tactics. So we have what we call an acceleration framework, and that is 8 key acceleration targets. And when they understand those and break them down and understand the risk and how to build that, they put it into a 90-day plan. And within 90 days, 99.9% of people will hit their target, if not within 45 or 50 days.
Wow.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. People, like, I have clients that come to me that were like, had doctors that had medical spas that were like doing $4,000 a day, been stuck, and within 90 days they're doing $44,000, or 10x, like unbelievable transformations, because for the first time they actually get the parts that they need to look at their business.
Could you break that down a little bit? I know you've said it kind of in concept, but I'm still trying to wrap my head around that. So, like, let's take like the med spa that
Yep.
goes from $4,000. What are some examples of some things that were holding them back, keeping their revenue pegged at 4K?
So some of the examples are, if you don't truly understand like who your dream customer is, and you're not speaking to your dream customer, the challenges that they have. So say, for example, you want to go to a medical spa, whether you realize or not, you have a series of challenges that you face in a certain order. And so a lot of the time, people don't understand like how to combine a dream customer with a value ladder. And so you're trying to sell to a dream customer at level one of a value ladder, and you have to combine the two, right? And so by doing that and them understanding that, they're not going to sell 20 different things to different people. They're trying to sell one thing that solves the first challenge that somebody has. The next thing that they do should solve the next problem, and the next problem after that. And so that's like simple. With the medical spa, they didn't understand who they were actually selling to or what they were selling to. And so once you start to understand that, you can get people in the door. Once you get the people in the door, you can start to get the repeat customers. But so for us, when we look at the acceleration targets, there's 8 key areas. There's your leads, engagement, customers, quantity, capacity, because every business has limitations, revenue, budgets, and profitability. And so when you look at these 8 numbers, they all connect and they all allow the movement from one to the next. And once, if a business owner, imagine if I said to you, if you looked to your business and all you saw was those 8 numbers, and they were like green lights and a traffic light, and 2 of them were red, you'd know exactly which 2 to go after. If I'd have given you a plan where your plan said, hey, if these 2 numbers, and they mean exactly this. So for leads, for example, might be for you people that apply to go on your podcast that this, and this type of lead, they're the perfect lead for you. So you would know that I need 50 of those, but I only have 10 of them. So now you understand the framework of where you've got your gap. It's 40 people of this particular person. You can go back and look in your business, say, is it my lead magnet? Is it my website? Is it my funnel? Is it my conversion? You get to ask yourself very clear questions to see how you solve the problem. Whereas if you don't see that number, you're looking at everything to try and figure out. But most of the time, you're actually going to maybe revenue and trying to fix revenue, because that's what you know, because you don't really understand leads, and it's confusing because you don't know how to look at it.
Now, one of the phrases you threw out was value ladder, and I understand that because I'm a marketer.
Yep.
But what's to somebody to the uninitiated, what's a value ladder?
So a value ladder is basically the steps in which you sell your products or services, or offerings, as I like to call them, because that makes it easier for people to understand. So a value ladder in our world, the way that we look at it, is really a 4-step process. The first part of the value ladder is something that you give away for free. It's something that you basically are trying to trade really time or lead magnets, get people interested into your product and service, and get them into your sales funnel. That's like your step 1. Step 2, it would be a low cost, high value product. This is something that might be $99 or $100. It's a simple product that can be easily sold in a simple transaction. It's the first thing that they buy money from you. They're going to basically build credibility and trust there. Once they purchase that, you can offer them the next step, which is your core product. When you've sold them your core product, then you're going to move them into what we call like a reoccurring revenue or VIP memberships, or a higher value product. And they really then turn into your customers for life. And when you understand how to move them through the value ladder has certain challenges at certain stages. And so it allows you to sell to those. But I'll tell you a little secret that most people don't know, is that the only transformation that happens when you're selling something to somebody is when you sell a core service. So many times people are trying to do a lead magnet, and they're trying to get some transformation in somebody because they want to make this big impact. But the reality is you can't sell a transformation at a basic funnel level. And so understanding those elements means a business owner stops wasting all their time trying to do things at the wrong time, and allows them to just logically see their business and know what the steps are.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, another thing that's in that is it's immensely easier to sell to somebody who's bought from you previously.
Yeah.
And so by having those low ticket purchases in there, it makes it easier to do the higher ticket purchase because I think Cialdini put it as the principle of consistency. Once somebody acts like a customer in the past, the probability that they'll act like a customer in the future is greatly increased.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, you're trying to create raving fans, right? People that love you, and the goal is to give more value than what they actually purchased. And that's going to massively help you upsell and cross sell. I mean, we help our customers understand what point is that in a journey. So if you went and sold somebody on day one, but they're not actually going to buy another product for you for 30 days, and you don't know that, for 30 days, you're chasing that customer thinking they're going to buy. But in reality, they're not going to buy until day 30. And maybe their core product's not going to be purchased until day 90. So by managing these expectations allows us to free up the time of a business owner and give them the confidence back in their business because they understand the steps, not just in sales, operations, profit, budgets. Like we cover those 8 core areas, but in each one they have a plan and a strategy to know exactly what to do and how to execute. We're basically tactical execution specialists. Like,
Yeah. The other thing you said that I think is so valuable is knowing who your ideal client is. And I run into so many people, their answer is people with money.
that's not gonna work.
And I even had one guy I was talking to, and he told me his ideal client. We started asking some questions. And my initial question was, think of a real person that if you had 100 clients just like them, life would be perfect. And he started describing this person, and I was like, this person sounds horrible. He says, yeah, but they pay us a lot. So I say, yeah, for those that aren't, or those listening and not watching, you're shaking your head no. Why are you shaking your head no?
Well, I mean, for a small business owner, you have to love your customers. It's never going to work if it's not a win-win. So, I mean, when we look at somebody and ask them to develop their dream customer, we ask them to make a comparison to their the customer that has purchased something that was the happiest customer. They were the happiest delivering to them. They had the most ROI from it, the most amount of value. Like take that situation and then take the worst customer that ever purchased from you, what they were unhappy about, what they complained about, what didn't you deliver, what was awkward and what was tiring. And so we make the comparison between the two, and then we build out the dream customer. We're really looking for a customer that can have a transformation. A dream customer has to, whatever you sell, doesn't matter what it is, there is a transformation that takes place with that dream customer when they purchase your core service. That is what makes a dream customer. If you can't deliver that transformation, you can't sell them into anything else because you don't get them a result. And so that's how we figure out what those dream customers are. But my belief is, and people could take the money over it, but when you build a business, you should build a business that you love and that you're passionate about and that you have raving fans. And if you don't like your customers, they're not going to be raving fans.
Yeah, I had a client years ago that for some reason on Friday nights, Friday afternoon, late Friday afternoon, would send out an email that I'm sure it took all of 2 minutes to write. And the effect of that email would take me off track for 5 to 8 hours.
Oh, wow.
And, and it was things like, the leads are costing too much. And I go back and look at what we promised. And we're like almost to the penny what we said we thought we could do. And and I just found that it upset me and just chewed up all this energy. And the thing that hit me was there was like I said, 5 to 8 hours wasted every time he sent me one of those emails. It was 5 to 8 hours where I wasn't making his business better. It was 5 to 8 hours I wasn't making my business better. It was just negative energy, time lost forever.
Yeah. And why did you continue to open them?
No, I fired him as a client.
That's good. That's good. I think that's like the worst piece is, I mean, customers have the ability to do that, and he's not a dream customer for you because you weren't going to get him the transformation that he wanted. Like the expectation that he had was too great.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I got like two, maybe three of those emails. And certainly by the second one, I'm like, okay, we're going to move them on. And,
Yeah.
it was somebody who came through a referral. So I was very careful in the way that we separated but the bottom line was I had to separate, it just, we weren't good together. And
Yeah. And I have, had a customer come the other day that somebody had asked me as a favor to meet and potentially work with. And I met with them and I was going to do the work because it was a favor for somebody else. And then by about day three, I said, you know what? I'm not doing this. This is not my dream customer. This is not going to make me happy. The customer was kind of like, you should do this for free. Like you'll get such a result on the far end, Claire. And I was like, that's not my game. That's not my business. Like that's not what I do. And I think if you as a business owner can understand what you do and what you're willing to sell and not willing to sell, that makes such a difference in the energy that you have to drive your business forward.
yeah.
I call them
Well,
energy vampire suckers,
exactly. Exactly. Well, Claire, this has just been absolutely amazing. I love what you do. I love how you break it down. It's systematic. I can see how you've taken what you applied in larger companies and you're bringing that wealth of knowledge and experience to smaller companies. How can people reach you?
They can reach me at thebusinesspowerhub.com. Anybody can join the hub for free. It's a free online growth platform community. It has an app on Google and Apple. Download it, join for free. I'm live on there every day. You can have coffee with me at noon on a Wednesday afternoon or 9 o'clock on a 9:30 on a Friday. Like I'm very, very accessible to answer questions and help people like figure out what it is that they want to do. There's no charge for the hub. That's the piece. It's just a free resource. And I suggest if there's any business owner out there that thinks, what should I do next? Or I feel like I'm stuck or I'm just not happy or I need answers, go look in the hub. I promise you will find them there. It's such a wealth of knowledge and expert coaches. It's been a passion project that I've built for 2 years and we love it. People love the hub.
Well, that's excellent. Well, Claire, thank you for coming on Layers and Legacies. And I do hope people will reach out to you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.